All right, we're ready.
Not seeing anyone logging in at the moment, so we will start with item 1, introductions. And as usual, I will try to go around the screen, and if I mispronounce or skip anyone, just feel free to jump in. We have Drew Nichols from SCTA. I am Larry Zimmer from the city of Healdsburg. The new SCTA employee, Ross Clendon.
That's it.
Clendon, sorry.
Exactly.
Tony Bertolero. And from Sebastopol. I always forget. Dave from SCTA, Chris and Shauna and Dana from SCTA, Hunter from Sonoma County, Quinn Kelly from Tool Design, a new face in the crowd, Janet Spillman from SCTA, Tanya from RCPA, Edie Takata from the lovely city of Rohnert Park, Kevin Thompson from Cloverdale, Ken Eichstead from Petaluma, Nancy Adams from Santa Rosa, and Alejandro Perez from Windsor. If there are no corrections, we will go on to public comment. And I'm assuming Quinn is not here as part of the public, so we could probably move past that to approval of meeting minutes of October 28th, 2021. Does anyone have any corrections or deletions? Seeing none, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded by Rohnert Park and Santa Rosa. Minutes are hereby approved. Onward to item number 4, the SB 743 update VMT mitigation reduction calculator. I assume this is Chris.
Yeah, and I just have a quick reminder that we have the kickoff meeting at 3 o'clock for the SB 743 VMT mitigation calculator project. So I'll provide a really brief introduction on SB 743 and the project and calendar and timeline, and then we'll turn things over to Fair and Peers to talk about the proposed approach and their implementation of a calculator in Alameda County. So we'll be able to see a demo of that and really look forward to getting everyone's feedback on what they'd like to see for Sonoma County. So yeah, that's at 3 o'clock. I think most folks have already gotten the invitation. If not, let me know. And it looks like we have the Zoom link on the TAC agenda as well.
Thanks, Chris. I see Nancy has a question.
Hey, yeah, thanks, Chris. Is there any was there any material sent out earlier prior to the call there at 3, or just curious?
Yeah, I sent the slides. I attached them to the
shoot.
meeting invite. Yeah, so go ahead and take a look at that. You should be able to grab the slides.
Okay, let me check that out. Okay, thanks. Yep.
And Chris, is that expected to be pretty much the full hour?
Yeah, 1 hour. We'll probably be looking at 15-20 minutes of presentation, probably about a 15-minute demo, and then reserving the rest of the time for questions and comments.
Perfect.
Yep.
No other comments or questions for Chris on that item? Seeing none, moving on to item number 5, the local road safety plan and Vision Zero.
Hi, everybody. That's my item this time. I put the two together because SCTA has taken over the production of the action plan. That's what Quinn is here to tell you about. And I also put the local road safety plans in there to remind you that if you have your draft local road safety plans, or even a list that looks pretty good of projects or policies, or any information you can share about that, please send them my way. I appreciate it. And so now I will pass it over to Quinn Kelly of Tool Design.
Sure. Yeah, I don't have anything prepared for today, but Janet had asked me just to join, to answer any potential questions about the Vision Zero action plan that we have been working on over the last month. Yeah, it's, we're really excited to be working on this project. We have, really been digging into, what exists in terms of planning documents. And, as Janet mentioned, we'd love to see those local road safety plans, but, we have a lot that we're working from already. And so, yeah, we've really been digging into, the proposed goals and actions for this plan. And we've sent, a bunch of materials to the Vision Zero Action Committee, and we're looking forward to getting their feedback next week. And from there, yeah, we've begun drafting the plan, and we're going to be working with DHS and their consultant, who has been spearheading some really great public engagement efforts to help, sort of get the public's read on, what are the major safety issues and, locations throughout the county. We're going to be running a virtual public workshop early in 2022, and then wrapping up the final Vision Zero action plan document at the end of February. So, it's a very accelerated 4-month timeline for the creation of this document, but I think that we're definitely on track so far. And yeah, we look forward to perhaps hearing from some of you all about how we're doing and getting your feedback. So.
Thank you, Quinn. Nancy?
Oh, okay, thank you, Janet and Quinn. So I'm just curious. So the latest communication I got from Kristen Thigpen, and I guess I wonder if she's still part of this, was that they were gonna, we do have our meeting coming up next Tuesday, and she had indicated that there'd be a draft of the action plan before that meeting. So I guess I have a few questions. Is Kristen still have a role in this this project? And then are we going to be able to see a draft plan before our technical ZTAC meeting there on December 7th? So if somebody could help me with those questions, that'd be great.
So first off, Kristen still is involved. She is doing the rest of the project around and beside the action plan. And she was incorrect when she said there would be a draft to review at the meeting that will be sent out after the meeting.
Yeah, we will have a draft of the Vision Zero action plan ready for review at the end of the year. So that'll be distributed shortly before Christmas. We just started working on this project a few weeks ago. So if we had a draft, well, we do have a draft right now, but it is not ready to share. So.
Okay, well, that's fine. I appreciate that. And I appreciate, it sounds like we're going to be in good hands to get us through the project. So just looking forward to what that is. And I guess I wonder then with the goal of the meeting on December 7th, what do you expect then? Because I thought the big part of that meeting was going to be to talk about the draft plan. So what are you envisioning is the goals and the purpose of that meeting on the 7th of this month? So thanks.
So Janet, have you distributed the materials that we shared with you all?
Not yet, no.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully those will go out very soon. We've created basically a detailed list of high-level goals and actions to help meet each of those goals. And there's a lot that needs to be worked out around those goals and actions. And we have a lot to discuss, and that's what we're hoping to get feedback on Tuesday.
Okay, thanks. Sorry just for a lot of questions, but just it seems like there's been a little bit of a fork in the road, but it's all good if it sounds like we're going to be successfully moving it along. So thanks for your indulgence.
Thank you. From Healdsburg, just the update, we are taking our local road safety plan to our council on Monday. So we're pretty far along. No other comments or questions for Quinn or Janet?
Can I just say that I know that we have 7 jurisdictions that are working on their local road safety plans with GHD per the contract that SCTA, helped to provide or to get secured. But once those are done, if you would please send us the final copy so that we have them on file and can start incorporating them into what Janet is moving forward with, that would be super helpful. I have the draft. I'm not sure I have the final for Sonoma County, who did theirs on their own. They did it in-house. And then I know that Windsor's is done and Healdsburg's goes Monday, and then everybody else is in progress. But as those get completed and approved, if you would send them our way, it would be very helpful. Also, I think there are 2. So I know Sonoma, City of Sonoma and Cloverdale are not, we're not participating as part of that RFP to produce local road safety plans. So if you could coordinate with Janet on what your plans are in terms of local road safety plans, or what your status is, that would be really helpful.
Sounds good. We'll send ours next week.
Thank you.
No questions? I thought I heard a voice.
Well, yeah, Santa Rosa is a little bit behind behind on this one, just because no good reason. So we're hoping to get our plan in shape after the first of the year. We've got GHD is working on that, but we kind of had a little bit of a fork in the road. We just got reconnected with Catherine and her team. We're gonna have a meeting, I think it's next week, but we may have a draft by the end of the year, but I'm suspecting we're probably going to do our community outreach after the first of the year. So we're trailing along, but just a bit of a hitch for us. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Item number 6, priority development area investment and growth strategy. Is that you, Shauna?
That's me. So we do one of these reports every couple of years now. 2017 was the big one for us, where we put together a huge binder with descriptions of all of the PDAs with maps and pictures. This year is just a technical update, and we're, as you can see from the materials in the agenda packet, MTC is requiring that we provide housing and mobility trends information, transportation projects, and affordable housing pipeline. We have a pretty good handle on the housing and the planned housing and the future housing. What I needed to verify with all of you are the transportation projects. We took them from the 2021 transportation funding project list and did a quick review of adding PDA information to all of them. And also we need to know if we've made the right assumptions in whether they're capacity increasing or not. You'll see if you scroll through the list that after our initial review, we discovered that there were really only less than a handful of projects that we could tell were capacity increasing. If all of you would take a look at your projects and verify that, I'd appreciate that. And that's pretty much all I have to say about the list. The point of the PDA investment and growth strategy, if you look at the MTC memo that is on page 10, you'll see that they say a new PDA investment growth strategy is required to be adopted in 2021 in advance of the adoption of OBAG 3 program framework. The strategy will help shape OBAG 3 by identifying the challenges, opportunities, and needs unique to the county's PDAs. So they say that every time, and we're really not sure how much this will impact the guidelines for OBAG 3. There seems to be some mystery now about OBAG 3. So given that it is possible that they will in fact use this information, we'd like to have it as accurate as possible. So please take a look at especially the project list. And we will be taking this to the board soon. So I need to get that information back and in the report by tomorrow, really. So that's all I have for you. Any questions?
Nancy?
Thanks, Janet. So I just want to, I'm looking in the packet and I just want to make sure I know what list, there's a handful of tables in here. Some of them are clear that they're housing and land use, but what's the table you want us to look at? I guess that's my question. I want to make sure I'm looking at the right information. Are you looking at
transportation projects?
was that
It doesn't have a heading. It's
Oh.
on page 13 and it has transportation projects listed in there.
okay, so it's on page 13 of the packet. Okay, that'll help. Yeah, okay. All right, I think that's good. All right, thanks.
And so Janet, that list that starts on page 13 goes to 16. And those are all of the transportation projects that were listed in the recent call for projects. And it's not necessarily if there is a PDA or no PDA, correct?
Well, if you look in the column, the second column for PDA, we've identified all of the PDAs that these projects are in, unless there is no PDA and it says not in PDA. Now, MTC is not particularly interested in that information, but I want to send it anyway to demonstrate that we have a lot of good projects, whether or not they're in PDAs.
Okay. So Janet, I looked at it earlier today and I forwarded an email through Shauna, which hopefully got to you. The dollar values of the Healdsburg project seem wrong. They look like they were only including PE, not construction. So is that enough of a comment or do you need a separate email with the correct numbers?
I need the correct numbers, however you want to send them to me. Yeah.
Because it looks like someone just took the PE numbers out of the spreadsheet we sent on the call for projects and didn't take the right numbers out when whoever created this spreadsheet.
Okay.
So I'm not changing anything. I'm just saying I think you pulled the wrong numbers out.
I see. Okay. We'll double check that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Tony?
Yeah, I have a question regarding that spreadsheet. I noticed that there are PDA notes. There's a column labeled PDA notes, and we had put PDA notes in our application, but none of them got transferred over. Is that something that you also want us to fill out to make it complete, or is that just kind of not necessary?
It wasn't required, but the more I read them, the more I thought they provided interesting and important information. If you have something important to say, by all means, send it to me.
Okay. All right.
Nancy, is your hand still up?
Thanks, Larry. Yeah, I actually have a similar comment as Larry's about the actual cost estimates for, I think maybe one or two of ours they seem low. So I don't want to change anything, but I just want to make sure that you guys are capturing to Larry's point, the full cost of the project. So thanks.
Ken?
Yes, thank you, Larry. Yeah, I see the costs don't look right, at least on one of the projects. And the notes aren't on all of them. So I think I need to go through this with some amount of carefulness. And how do we respond back? Do we just mark up the PDF then and send that to, I guess, Janet, or what's the format that's requested?
You know, if you just send me the name of the project and the additional information, that'd be fine. I don't need markups.
Okay. Okay, will do. Thank you.
Any other comments? Thank you, Janet.
You're welcome.
Moving on. Item number 7.1, Measure M invoicing obligation status.
That's me, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now so that we make sure everybody has eyeballs on it. We do this every month. Hopefully this isn't surprising to anyone. I will say that we discovered a set of invoices that came in hard copy that we were waiting for a electronic copy on that we never got, and that was an assumption on our part. So Santa Rosa, don't freak out when you see the dates. You did submit invoices in October, and those will get recorded shortly. I just found out about them yesterday. So since COVID started, we have sort of transitioned to almost all electronic invoicing. So it was just out of the ordinary for us to get a hard copy. So that's on us. If there are questions, then I would be happy to answer it, but everybody here should be familiar with this spreadsheet. This is the spreadsheet that shows you if you have funding programmed in this fiscal year and are expected to appropriate, or if you have an open appropriation and you should be invoicing against your Measure M appropriation. I don't see any hands raised, so I think that's it, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sounds good. Onward to item 8, the regional information update, 8.1, inactive federal obligation status.
That's me also, but I just closed my agenda packet. So just give me a quick mo while I open it up again. Sorry about that.
And you may want to keep it open for the next few, right?
Yes, I meant to get out of one thing, but not the whole.
That's all right. You don't need to try to explain it.
Is that alcohol, Larry?
It is not. I'm trying to drink water without dribbling out of my dentist and numbed mouth.
There's nothing wrong with a little holiday cheer, Larry. Come on now.
Would
Hey,
you like me to
Steve.
share, Shauna? I have the packet open. Would you like me to share?
Yeah, that'll be fine. I just got it open, but why don't you go ahead? That'll be fine. Thank you, Drew. So this is another thing that is a standing item on our agenda. So we go through all of the federal inactive obligations. MTC requires that you be in good standing and not on the federal inactive obligation list in order to be eligible for federal funds. Since we will be going through the OBAG programming process relatively soon, it behooves everyone to get these items removed from the federal inactive obligation list. But in order to do that, you have to invoice. You have to submit a complete and accurate invoice that is then accepted by Caltrans accounting. Not just submit, but it has to be accepted and processed. That's when it gets a check mark and it's considered processed. So as we do each month, we go through and talk about these projects. Of course, we have heard a number of times about several of these. I understand that there are ongoing issues, but some of these do need to be addressed. So we'll take them jurisdiction by jurisdiction, and hopefully everybody is prepared to discuss. So let's start with Windsor.
Hello, Shauna.
Hey.
Yeah, this is, I don't know, is this list inactive, or is this just a list of what federal projects are we working on? Because it seems like every time we have a project, we just fall on this list. We submitted our first invoice months. I think it's been like at least a month, and it just keeps getting bounced back and forth. So we're just working with Caltrans to get it done. So, I mean, I don't know what else we can really say about it.
Can we talk about why it's getting bounced back? Because I think that discussion helps the group.
I was going to ask, has anybody ever submitted an invoice or without being put on this list and not being bounced back? Because it seems like I thought we had it down, but then we just got delayed this time on this project. So I don't.
Well, and this is local partnership program, right? So it's getting scrutiny for CTC review also. So that may be different.
Okay, but well, no, then I can't tell you exactly what's going on at this point. So I could respond to you back next week when Mona is back, but that's what I just know at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Alejandro. I'm just gonna, as a reminder, we do bring this every month and we do ask everybody to be prepared to discuss at the meeting. Let's move on to Petaluma.
We have just, we're going to the council on December 6th and we'll get a contractor on board. I will find out what the status of that invoice is. I thought it had been submitted, but I'll need to check on that, Shauna.
Okay. Let's move on. Sonoma County, Nader, are you on with us?
Yes.
Okay. I did not get your update last month, Nader, and you promised, so I am going to hold you to the fire this time. We're going to go through each one.
I'm going to go through each one of them because it does change it from day to day.
Okay.
Okay, it's 166. The OBAG is an invoice has been submitted on the 15th of November. So for the 32L576, the ER, this number does not exist. They've incorrectly issued this one, and they replaced them with the 40A, 104, 102, and 103, which is AC, which I don't understand why it is on the inactive list since I cannot invoice on it and I cannot report. 138 and 144 are not currently billable. We don't have any funds available to bill against. So 164, we submitted the PED extension for it, requesting that in September. We learned last week that Caltrans did not process it because it was not sent to Jose instead of Ken. But I'm working with Ken on this along with the parks to fix this one and send an invoice. Because without the PED extension, you cannot send an invoice, my understanding from, although I disagree with that for the progress report. 147 and 148, it's PRMD projects, and I'm working with their staff who has almost zero, if not negative knowledge about FHWA since the pros has either retired or on leave or vacation. So that's one challenge for me. The other one is 151, which belongs to the health. We're working on some comments to address for the final report to close it out. 503, the ER, that I am working with Ken on resubmission, but I will need to get an assurance from him that it will be signed off before I go through the exercise and resubmit the documents. The rest of them.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? You want assurance that it will be processed before you submit it. He can't do that until he actually sees it.
He's seen it, but he keeps disputing, and his dispute was on the two-step process. And he brought a few items to the plate, and I had a discussion with him on it, and he backed off on them. But when I submit, he rejects them again. So I had to deal with him. What is an informal process? What A&E has to deal with it, and we're using the same two-step process for the past 5 years with the county, and that has not been an issue. So finally, he agreed to it. I just want to run the forms with him. And if he wants the documentation to be resubmitted again, I will resubmit it. I just need him to review it with me online and tell me what's wrong and what's missing, because he rejected it 5 times. And
Yeah,
that's
so
to me is a no-no. That's to me is a no-no, something wrong with me. Either I cannot communicate correctly or I have misunderstanding of what they want. I take the blame for it, not them.
So I have heard that other jurisdictions have had success with going, with doing a review online where you're on a Zoom meeting, you can share screen, you can talk about each one of the items, and then you're all on the same page. So I do highly recommend doing that with him.
Actually, I am using that also for some of the ERs that we have. I took over from Cindy. And I already arranged and scheduled the meeting for Wednesday, to go over it, not only District 4, but headquarters with Robert Lee and if needed, Bob Baca. I said, I want to resolve it. I have 7 months and I don't want to put an extension for it. I don't want to go through the circus.
Okay.
So I'm trying to approach differently, especially all the workload is on Ken. They just hired somebody to replace Jay, but my understanding his background is not local assistant. He's in the learning curve.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to go to 10, 15 steps backward.
Sure.
So trying to resolve things. I've been trying for the past, 2 years to remove us to a 0 list, but it seems there is something is not done right to make it that way.
Okay. Thank you, Nader.
Sure.
Okay, that takes us to, before we move on to the next, you did say something that I think is worth repeating for the whole group, and that is that if you send something to local assistance, always send it to Jose, always, because Jose checks it in and it gets input into some sort of tracking system. If you send it to Ken, it's gonna get lost in his email.
Oh, he
So
won't even-
always,
he
always
said-
send to Jose.
Actually, he said it straight up. If you send me something that I'm not supposed to receive, as if you never send it to me, I don't even bother to look at it. He
I
said
mean,
it straight up.
if you have an understanding with him where you're going back and forth and you say, I'm going to send you something to look at, that's great. But, and he says, send it to me, I'll look at it and let you know if it's okay. But at that point, he has checked it for okayness. He hasn't logged it in. That does not count as submitting it.
You're right, 100%, you're right. And the issue for the one on the PED, it wasn't sent by my staff. I haven't seen it. It was sent from Park directly.
Sure.
And I do encourage every single local agency to keep up with the updates of the local assistant program manual, because there is changes and you need to reach out to them, because they're acting, Ken is acting this way. If it's not done the proper way, I don't log it in, it's not seen, there is no trace of it that you ever submitted.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in his mind, you're going back and forth, you're having a conversation. Yeah, that looks good. Go ahead and submit it the right way is what he's saying.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
that's not necessarily how everybody thinks about it. They're like, oh, I was going back and forth with him. I sent it to him. He said it was okay. He must be working on it now and it'll move forward. That is not how that works.
No,
So
no,
just
exactly.
making
Right.
sure everybody gets that message.
You understand him very well.
Yes, well,
Exactly.
16 years will do that for you. So let's move on to Cloverdale.
Hi, I'm coming in kind of cold on this because I'm not exactly sure, but I know we've been dealing with this project for a long time as a safe routes to school, and we're having trouble getting the grant completed with Caltrans. I will make a note of it, and
I think I know what your issue is, so I'm going to share it with the crowd if you don't mind, Kevin, just so that
would love
everybody
that.
knows.
Sure.
This is something that was part of that federal training day that they did recently, where they talked about these really important milestones in a given federal aid project. And one of those really important milestones is your project end date, your PED. That is a federal number, a federal date, and that is an official thing. And it shows up on your finance letter. It shows up on all your documentation. If you reach that end date without having first extended it, then nothing that occurs after that project end date is eligible for reimbursement. And I believe that Cloverdale had completed all of their expenditures by that time, but they didn't complete their invoicing by that time. So there is some question as to what portions will continue to be reimbursed. So that's the issue around the Cloverdale invoice that I understand. But it has to do, because while I believe Cloverdale did try to submit an extension request, it happened after the PED, which is the project end date, and that isn't part of the process. They won't entertain it if it happens afterwards. It has to happen before.
So how do we get this project off of this list?
You file your final paperwork. You have to close out the project. And so you have to determine with Caltrans whether or not there are outstanding expenditures that happened before or after that project end date. And then you also have to file your final paperwork.
Okay.
And that has to be accepted. So again, make sure it goes through Jose and not Ken when you submit it, and make sure that that you understand that it's not official until Caltrans headquarters accepts it. That's how it comes off this list.
Okay.
Okay, and then we move on to Sonoma. And I did not see Colleen, and I know she has someone new that is going to be her support person. I don't know if that person is here. I don't think so. So we'll skip that one. All right, I see two hands raised. First on the list is Ken Eichstadt.
The PE invoice will be submitted tomorrow.
Great.
Thank you.
And that's going to go through Jose. Great. Nancy.
So who's Jose? I know, what's his last name?
I think it's
know.
Reyes.
Reyes.
Like, is it Jose Reyes?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think that's a dead horse we can leave alone now. We'll move on to project initiation documents, because I have the next several, Mr. Chair, so I'll just sort of roll through these. I'm going to go ahead and share screen again. So, as we do every year, we put together a list of projects because Caltrans asks SCTA what is part of their budgeting cycle. What projects are you going to want to have us do oversight on project initiation documents for? And so we put together a 3-year work plan that includes the current fiscal year and the next 2 fiscal years. We go through this every year. And a number of years back now, it doesn't seem like that long, but it really is, Caltrans was told by the governor that they wouldn't be doing PIDs themselves anymore, except for projects that are on their facility that they're implementing. So any local projects that happen on state highways have to be funded through the local agency. So that's part of this process, is understanding that the local agency will be required to pay for a PID, and that includes oversight by Caltrans. So, and there's some information in the agenda packet past this page. If you go down here, I'll go real quick. There is some information about the background behind that. But the important part is that we expect, or that, and I don't know that this has been adjusted. It was between 130 and 150K for that oversight contract. And so I don't know if that's been adjusted for inflation or not. That was what it was when we started. So last year we went through this process, and I have attached last year's list to this agenda packet for your reference. I will tell you that it had a number of projects in it, and there were no projects in the 2021 year because nobody was ready to move forward that quickly. And there wasn't anything that was currently active. So there wasn't anything in last year's work plan. There were 2 projects on the list for fiscal year 21-22. Those were both in Windsor. I don't think that Windsor is moving forward with those PIDs, but I would welcome any input that you might want to provide to the contrary, Alejandro.
Yes, on the first one, the downtown Windsor Underpass, we are actually in contact with Caltrans. We're looking at how to move forward with this.
Great.
So that one, I think we could keep on there. The Arata Lane interchange will probably have to fall back.
And do you want that to fall back to 22-23 or beyond?
Depends on that funding. Is it okay if we just put on next year, on the next, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, let's make sure that it's the town's plan to move forward with it. Otherwise, I would say give it a couple of years.
Well,
I mean,
it is,
especially if you get this new, if you get the underpass, are you going to have the funding? If you get the underpass PID, are you going to have the funding to commit to the Arata Lane interchange PID as well?
Yeah, it's all dependent on funding that we're looking for. So I get it's fine if we move it back a couple of years, it's fine. If it comes up, then we can always move forward, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Hey, Shauna, I have a quick question. On your staff report, you say under the recommendation, you say the 3-year PID and work plan, and it looks like you have 21, 22, 22, 23, and then you have 22, 23. Is that supposed to be 23, 24 for that 3rd year?
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right. So, all right. I just want to make sure I'm clear on that extra year. Okay. Thanks.
So let's see, now we go back to what was in 22-23, and that included the 4 projects you see before you. And then what we did, instead of making another year out where we committed to something, we felt like we wanted Caltrans to know that these things were still in process, but no one was willing or had the money to commit to really doing a PID. So we labeled them as future priorities instead. And that includes Highway 1, Highway 12 right away, the Dry Creek interchange improvements, Shiloh interchange, and the downtown Windsor interchange. So I can continue to do that. If anything on this list needs to change, or if we need to add anything to these years, now is the time to tell me. And I would say that, as I mentioned, the actual list, I'm going to scroll down here, looks like this. So it will be updated for this year, because obviously this is last year's list. But this is the kind of information that I need to have. These columns need to be filled out. I need to get this information from you. And I would say I need to have it before the Christmas holiday, because I need to be able to add it to the list and get it onto a staff report in order to get it to the board in January. So are there any questions about project initiation documents, what they mean? I mean, I did sort of blow through that with the understanding that everybody sort of has a background understanding. Do I need to provide any more information for anybody?
Could you give me about 2 minutes of background, Shauna?
Sure thing. So a project initiation document is exactly that. It's an initiation document that Caltrans needs in order to move forward with any type of project, any type of undertaking that's going to happen on the state highways. So there are a number of different formats that a project initiation document can take. Sometimes they're called a project study report. Sometimes they're called a PSSR, and I forget what that extra S stands for. Sometimes there's a PSR PDS. And James, you want to step in and tell me what all of those letters mean? Because I have that part's gone from my head. But essentially what it means is you need to have one of these documents in order to move forward with any type of project on the state highways. So we try to put that together for Caltrans, because they need to know, they need to be able to budget what they're going to have time to do and staff to do in a given fiscal year. Go ahead, James.
Kevin, and Shauna, I wasn't going to improve on your explanation. That was great. I was going to add something different, but since it came up, Kevin, if I were to put it through my lens and your shoes where you're at, you pretty much just want to focus on encroachment work within the state right away and not have to go through a full Caltrans oversight process. This is for a full Caltrans oversight process. It's for larger projects, complex projects. You want to try to look at the stuff you're working on lists that I've seen for Cloverdale. You might be able to get through what's called a DEAR process, which is a simplified process that's fairly new. This full Caltrans oversight process, step one is a cooperative agreement to do a PSR PDS, which is basically the programming document for Caltrans. And the reason why I turn my camera on is I just wanted to ask the group, mostly Alejandro, because he's the guy with has projects on the list. The first step is to do a cooperative agreement request form, right? So they call that form a CAR, and that'll get you a co-op. From the time you get the CAR to when you actually have a signed co-op between you and Caltrans, 6 months is pretty standard. So Alejandro, have you even started on a CAR for your project, or is anybody in this room started on a CAR for their project?
We have not started a CAR, but we actually have been discussing with Caltrans if the project is actually on the list for if we can use the DEAR process.
Okay.
So that's where we're headed with the first one. So
right on. No, is anybody else started a CAR or have it moving forward? No. Alejandro is the only one that had one on the list that would do it. And this is really just about resource leveling at Caltrans, right? In the past, we've had jurisdictions ready to go, and you're basically fighting over who can get Caltrans's resources to provide the oversight services, whether you're having a consultant do the work and then provide oversight, or whether you're actually hiring Caltrans to produce the PSR PDS or the PID document themselves in-house. They can do it either way. So that's what we got. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Kevin, I will say that if you are going to work on encroachment on an encroachment basis, the threshold used to be any project total that was less than $1 million, and anything more than $1 million would generally need a PID. I think it's escalated to $3 million now, but that's essentially a rule of thumb for whether or not you would need an encroachment permit or whether you would need to go through a full PID process. Okay, so again, just to reiterate, if you want changes to this document, my expectation is that other than what Alejandro has mentioned for Windsor, each of these projects that are listed in these fiscal years are going to get bumped back a year. Since I don't hear any noise about anything moving forward, they will stay on the list, but they will automatically bump back a year unless I hear different information. And if there is, if something else new needs to be added to the list, great, send me this information. So you can see what information I need, and it has to be each one of these columns. You can see what kinds of information is acceptable in what's listed here already.
So Shauna,
Yes.
just so I'm clear, when you say bump back, so you mean the projects that are in 22, 23, you're going to move those back to 23, 24?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just want to make sure. And then all the Windsor projects will go to 22, 23, right?
No, I think I'll leave the downtown underpass in this fiscal year because he says he's still trying to work on it, and I know that it's probably going to take a while, but I think it's reasonable if they're in active negotiations with Caltrans that we can leave it on this list, and then it can carry forward to the next year's list if it has to.
Okay. So then there won't be any projects in 22, 23, right? If you're going to move all the 22, 23 out to 23, 24.
There was one project that needed to move back. The Rotter Lane interchange will move back to 22, 23.
Okay. Got it. Okay. I'm just checking. All right. That's fine. Thanks. Yep.
Great. Thanks. Okay. That's going to move us forward to the next item, Mr. Chair, unless there's anything else.
Nope. 8.3 annual obligation plan.
8.3 annual obligation plan. I need to make this bigger. So this is This is, it doesn't have a title or anything on it. This is an excerpt from a report that we got from MTC. And this shows last year's annual obligation plan, the status of the projects on last year's federal obligation plan. So if you were an active project on the federal obligation plan last year, that this shows what your status is, what, you know, and we've got funds in tip for later than 2021 for the highway bike ped overcrossing. I don't think that's accurate anymore because it's now fully funded. So we should probably talk to John Saley about that. But otherwise, this is the status of what happened last year, right? So MTC asks that if you're going to be in the federal obligation plan, that you opt in, that you are active, that you know that you are actively working on obligating those funds, that you once obligate those funds, you invoice regularly, that sort of thing. So this is the status of what happened last year. This is the 2021 annual obligation plan. And then James, did you have anything you wanted to add about that? Otherwise, I'm going to bring up this year's annual obligation plan.
So the ask is just review this and let's get back to John Saley if this does not match what your records show.
Okay.
Shauna, so I'm sorry, I was messing with my screen. I couldn't get my button. So what was the thing that you mentioned about the Highway 101 bike ped overcrossing? I didn't see that on the list, the one that you just had up there. Did I miss it, or is that something else you're looking at?
So right now, what I'm looking at, hopefully everybody sees this. It's a blue and white table with a blue header.
Yeah.
And it has all of the projects starting with the US 101 Marin Snow Narrows near Petaluma.
Right.
Everybody's on that same page.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Oh, I see it.
And then there's funds in the tip later than 2021. Just make sure that that's accurate. I believe that is. Because I think, Nancy, now that I'm actually scrutinizing it, is the funding on this obligation plan was for the PE funds, which were federal, and then the rest of your money is in the tip, but it's in later years because it's ATP and it's about to be STIP, that sort of thing.
Right. That's right.
That's all that means.
Yeah. Okay. So it looks
But
okay to me.
do check and make sure that all the rest of the information is accurate. If you have a project on this list, check it, make sure it's accurate. Get back to John Saley about it in the next week. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing this page real quick and then share this other page real quick. This is this year's federal obligation plan. We bring it to you in about July or August before the federal fiscal year starts. If you're listed, then we say to you, if you have money in this fiscal year and you are not ready to deliver, if you cannot obligate in this fiscal year, then tell us now and you can opt out. You can push your money out. But you also have to opt in. Now, it's not just a silence is accepted. You have to opt in. So if you're on this list, it means you opted in to be included in the federal obligation plan for fiscal year 21-22. These are the projects that are expected to move forward with obligation. So that means E76 by January 31st of 2022. That means ideally, and I have spoken with Hunter and a couple others at TPW. I know that you guys are running a little bit behind on submitting your obligation request, but the request for authorization, your RFA for your federal obligation, is due on November 1st. So we're at December 2nd. So hopefully everybody has submitted a request for authorization. Tony, I know you guys are on this list and you're not going to make November because we're still waiting to get it into the tip. That is understood. And that was understood from the beginning because it was a late addition to Quick Strike.
Okay, I thought it says OBAG 2.
Yeah, because
program?
the Quick Strike funds came from OBAG 2.
Oh, got it.
Was,
Okay.
It was surplus funds. Surplus is the wrong word. It was funds that were identified for regional programs that were as yet unspent. So they used that to do a quick strike. So it was intended as a COVID relief type idea. That's where Quick Strike came from.
Okay, so
OBAG 2 funds to fund it.
yeah, I mean, we're still waiting for the tip ID, and
yes,
I'm assuming it'll happen soon.
You need to check so there is a local streets and roads and programming and delivery working group meeting next Thursday. Everyone is encouraged to attend that meeting on a regular basis. They really only hold them quarterly these days. So I know that it's a commitment of a couple of hours, but it is absolutely worthwhile because you get update on tip deadlines for when you can expect a given tip amendment to be approved, when you need to submit to be included in a given tip amendment, or what's the other one? It's an administrative modification. There are other really important, we talk about what the regional delivery policies should be. That's where things like that get hashed out. I highly recommend that everybody attend that meeting. Some of you do on a regular basis. I know that. Some of you don't. It is worthwhile to do. So Nancy, you still have your hand raised?
Hold on, sorry. So I didn't see this in the packet, so
it's not in the packet. I'm bringing it up because I just got it.
Can you like make it a little bit bigger, or so it looks like Santa Rosa's got the 2 transit mall projects, right? So that's Rachel and her team. So that looks, oh, there you go. Nice. Okay, scroll. And then maybe so we can see the projects. Is that Drew that's doing it? Perfect. Okay, perfect. So, and then we've got our pavement one. And then the other one is, okay, so that's Rob's, that's that HIP project. Okay. Yeah, I think we're all good for Santa Rosa. Yep, thanks.
Great. Okay. And this will be in the agenda packet for the local streets and roads and programming and delivery working group agenda. So even if you are unable to attend the meeting, this will be in it. So you can find that as well. If you are not on that list, please let me know. I will be happy to forward all the materials to you.
Shauna, I know you're aware, but the 2 Healdsburg projects, one is the Quick Strike, which I do have the RFA in, had to resubmit that Ken's request yesterday, but that one is in. And then the Complete Streets was changed from construction to PE, so we're waiting on that tip. So that's not going to happen.
Yep,
super
that's
quickly.
understood. That's understood, Larry. If we're in active discussion about it, then you can assume that those deadlines have been discussed with MTC and everybody's working together.
Good.
So you won't be penalized for not having your RFA in. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing this and go back to the other document.
We have a couple of questions too, Shauna.
Sure thing.
Hunter?
Yeah, Shauna, you had mentioned a project that we were that we had talked about, and I was just curious if you could remind me. This is about federal funding? Do you know what project this is that we talked about?
No, because I just turned it off, but and it might not be you. I meant that I've been working with TPW, so it's fine.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure there was something that we weren't supposed to be doing, so that was dealing with this federal funding. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Shauna, we didn't have anything on that quick strike list or anything from recent programming efforts.
I think you have, well, I know you have the Crocker Bridge that is supposed to be moving forward. And that's not this year, that's next year, but it's, you know, that's supposed to be, there are other things that should be in the works for you still, Steve. And I think you had some money in a pavement job, but I will look it up and we can talk about it offline.
Okay, thanks.
Tony, did you have more questions?
I did. Just, you mentioned that there's that, the local streets and road meeting next week. I don't think I got notice of that one. Is that something you could forward to me?
Absolutely, I can. I will.
Okay.
Right
thank
after
you.
this meeting. Okay. Are there any further questions or comments about the annual obligation plans? Seeing none, I am going to share screen once again with my TAC packet and just let you know that the next item was information about OBAG 3. What is included in your agenda packet is in fact a presentation that was made to the Programming and Allocations Committee in November, MTC's Programming and Allocations Committee in November. It was the most recent information we had, but of course the infrastructure and whatever the second I stands for and Jobs Act, Investment in Infrastructure and Jobs Act, that's it, was passed. And it means that it's probably more money than what we were anticipating. So MTC is working right now to solidify those final numbers. We don't know what they are, but it has, because the Jobs Act was finalized, it has adjusted their expectation of when they're going to release their final approval. So we're looking for it as of this presentation to the Programming and Allocations Committee, we were expecting something draft in December and then finalized in January. I think now that we are now looking at draft in January and final in February for the OBAG 3 information. And we have spoken with all of the project sponsors that submitted applications for the 2021 funding program at this point. So hopefully this is not news to any of you. You've all had some discussion with us about what our expectations are for OBAG 3. That is the One Bay Area Grant Cycle 3 funds, which represent federal funding, and the Infrastructure and Jobs Act is the Federal Surface Transportation Act. Last time it was FAST, the FAST Act, and during the last administration we did not get a surface transportation authorization, so it's been a while since we got one. So now that this is moving forward, that's really great news for everybody. I'm not going to go through the whole presentation because it's not my presentation, but I do encourage you to read through it so that you have some understanding. And we have tried to make everybody aware of the things that we expect to be different this year. And you can see that they were making assumptions based on what was in the last act. As I mentioned, IIJA is more than what they were expecting. So we don't know how much that's going to affect what actually comes to the regional allocations. We are expecting that there will be a focus on equity priority communities and input specifically from equity priority communities. Let's see what else I had written down. They will be looking for any CMAQ programmed projects. They will be doing a emissions benefit and cost effectiveness evaluation. And that is how they will be judging CMAQ projects that are applying for CMAQ funds. Also, it is important to note that while they will be looking for CTAs to assist with local outreach and initial project screening process using processes reviewed by MTC for consistency with guidelines, they are the decision maker in the end. They will provide targets for each of the counties to work within, but that is not a guarantee. And all of that will be, each of the projects will be evaluated. I think those were the highlights that I wanted to draw your attention to. So please do review all of this information and let me know if you have questions. This is as I said, this was the schedule that was presented to the PAC in November. That has these three have changed slightly since IIJA came out. Nancy, you have questions?
So yeah, I understand that the draft framework won't be out until, I guess, January now, maybe, and then the final in February. But are we going to know any sooner about the actual difference between, the federal act now and what they had proposed in this framework that's in the packet? And what, are there going to be any numbers like that might be available next week at the local streets and roads meeting? So I'm just curious if you
have to go to the meeting to find out.
I know. Good. See, there's a bait for everyone, right? Sean, I'm helping you out.
Thank you, Nancy. Got my back. Thanks.
Yeah. All right. So that's just a question, just curious.
Yeah, I don't have anything right now. I don't know. And I do know that there are probably high-level discussions going on, but nothing that's trickled down to me so far. Tony, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a question regarding the 5-year priority plan that you said that it had something like $70 million available. Does this infrastructure bill expand that? Does that mean that there's actually going to be more, or you don't know that yet? I mean, you assume there'd be more, but.
Right. So if you look through the packet here, MTC's assumption was that they were going to do 50% to the jurisdictions and 50% for regional programs. And that is slightly different than what they did last time. Last time they had 45% to jurisdictions and 55% to regional programs. So that got adjusted slightly. And they were using, I think, a 3% escalation for what they were expecting to see in terms of total value in the program. It's more than that, but we don't know how that will play out. I assume that it will mean that they will split those things evenly again, that it will be 50% for regional and 50% for jurisdictions. And if that's the case, then we can hope that that would affect what we get in OBAG. But we don't have that information yet. I see Edie and then Steve.
So I don't remember, this is a question about CMAQ and this assessing emissions benefits and cost effectiveness. Have we done that before, or nope. Have our past CMAQ projects been assessed by MTC with this assessment before, or? And we just don't know, or we do know.
I think that is part of, as part of their compliance with Plan Bay Area, that they were doing that sort of thing, but this is going to be part of the evaluation.
Their evaluation of the project, the slate of projects we submit.
Yes. That's
and is that usually done on a project by project basis or as a group?
I have as much information as what's in here. So I mean.
Got it. I didn't know if I needed to somehow understand and then know.
Well, I think it's worth noting.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at some point they're gonna evaluate us based on what our cost. I mean, they've certainly done it to SMART already. We know that SMART wasn't included in Plan Bay Area because they said that that the cost benefit analysis didn't pencil out. So I mean, they're clearly going to be using it going forward. Steve?
Oh, Steve.
Hey, Shauna, you said something I kind of ran me into the sticker bushes here a little bit based on our past discussions about the evaluation criteria for OBAG, and we've been talking about some of the parts and pieces of it, but you said that the CTC is also going to have a component in approval here, or is that after projects are selected and for funding? Can you clarify that a little bit for me? Maybe I misheard you.
MTC. So MTC is the decider. So what happens is the transportation authorities will submit their proposed projects. We will go through and do our evaluation. And as I mentioned in all of the meetings that we had with all of the project applicants, we are trying to make sure that our projects are as competitive as they can be, which is why we went through that review process with all of the applications. But what it comes down to is what the TAs submit to MTC, MTC gets to evaluate and then decide what gets money. So just because SCTA, very much like Quick Strike, no matter what we submit, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to get funded until MTC approves it.
Yeah, just for your benefit though, just every one of the projects we talked in the past, we're going to be doing low income housing in every one of those projects. And there's going to be colored pavement as well. So that might help. I'm kidding.
You got it. I'm just saying, it might not be a bad idea. Nancy.
So yeah, I'm just going to follow up with Edie, and you know that this calculator for the CMAQ money could really be interesting for the North Bay counties. We struggle. It's again San Francisco versus the more suburban types of communities, and it's particularly if MTC is going to be weighing in at a regional level, and they're going to be looking for the biggest bang for the buck for CMAQ. That could be problematic for us more rural counties. So I'm just raising a little bit of a flag. So I don't know what that looks like or what it's going to look like, but anyway, that's just kind of my caution.
Thanks. Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I do. So at some point, MTC puts out a call for projects, but we've already answered a call for projects. So what does that look like from the local agency's perspective? Are we going to be asked to provide more information following that call for projects? But there's things we can't change because we've agreed to it in the prior call for projects.
What you've agreed to is what your priority projects are. If we need to make, if we go through our evaluation and then, we're not going to go through our evaluation process until we hear what their final procedures and guidelines are, until they've adopted that program, that One Bay Area grant program. Once that happens, if there is additional information that is required by that program, we will reach out to the jurisdictions and ask for that additional information. And I expect that when we get down to it, what SCTA staff proposes for the 2021 funding program, which keep in mind will include more than just OBAG, there will be robust discussion around what moves forward and what everybody is willing to do. Whether that's before we make our recommendation or after, I expect there to be lots of back and forth between all of the jurisdictions during this process.
Yeah, I hear you. And I guess the point that I continue to make is when we filled out the 5 project lists to SCTA, we weren't writing it with the specifics of OBAG 3 and the guidelines that are coming out.
Yep.
And therefore, we could put ourselves at a disadvantage, particularly if we're competing against other counties. But if it's truly a set amount, and I know it's not factually a set amount for the county, that could be a disadvantage. It just feels, it's difficult to write one of these, much less trying to do 5 all at the same level of an OBAG application.
Sure. And not all of them are really the best fit for OBAG. So we're gonna do an evaluation based on the 2021 funding program for SCTA, and then we will work with the jurisdictions for whatever gets selected to move forward with OBAG. Okay,
Yeah, so just, I guess I'm trying to understand, Shauna, the process. So OBAG is a 4-year programming cycle, right?
Correct.
So if we're only doing, if the SCTA is only doing 2021, and we're, you know, you have jurisdictions that want to program OBAG maybe out to the 4th year. I guess I'm trying to, maybe I'm not getting it or what, yeah.
So the 2021 funding program is a 5-year funding program.
Okay, I'm sorry, then it's just a matter of.
It's just what we called it because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
when it
gotcha.
came out.
Okay, got you. All right, got you.
Steve?
You know, in past OBAG programs and some of the others, there's been some differentials for some of the, I guess, you know, we were talking about urban versus rural counties and the distribution models that are associated with that. Have they talked about some different criteria that, you know, it sounds like we're coalescing around criteria for, you know, the city and county of San Francisco from OBAG's and MTC's perspective. Have there been some folks trying to pull those apart a little bit in terms of what would qualify as a regional project, for example, in Sonoma County versus a regional project in Alameda or something like that? Do you have any background you could kind of share with us, Shauna?
So so when I mentioned a regional program and then the local program, regional programs will be much higher level programs. They apply to things like transit and housing and that sort of thing. That's the 50% carve out that MTC will get, that they will implement. Then there's the 50% that will come to the jurisdictions, and that will be our standard STP CMAQ like we've done in the past. Within that, there are a number of things that they are going to apply. Like I mentioned, they're going to be looking for projects that benefit equity priority communities. They are updating their complete streets policies and checklist. I wanted to have everybody complete a complete streets checklist. Like I was going to send it out like this month and have everybody just do it so that we could get that through the CBPAC process, because we all know that if there's input from the CBPAC, then it could change your project, and you don't really want to be doing that right before you're trying to program the project. But because they're going to be changing their complete streets policies checklist, we're going to wait until at least March to do that. They are only requiring, like they did during OBAG 2, they are only requiring 50% of our investment to be inside PDAs for the North Bay counties. The South Bay, the other counties require a 70% investment in PDAs. So that's what happened last time. But what I know is in that packet. So I do recommend that everybody go through what's in that information.
Thank you, Shauna.
Sure thing. Are there, oh yeah, Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, Shauna. It's a lot of good information. Is there any, is there going to be a meeting that we need to plan for submittal or any sort of preparatory strike on this? Because it sounds like we need to go through and review it. Got it. But is there going to be anything coming from SCTA down to us that we need to get ready for? And do we want to pencil anything in now? Just a thought.
Not before the end of the year.
It'll
be next year. But I also need to, I think I'm going to have to call a stop to this this portion of the agenda, because David still has a item that is going to have quite a bit of robust discussion, and we've got a 3 o'clock do funny with Fair and Pierce. So I am going to say let's move on to David's item.
All right, take it away, David.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we just want to check in with the TAC. Right now, we are looking at potentially doing an RFQ for consultant assistance for getting some help for SCTA as we look at future projects as we wrap up the 101 corridor. And we also wanted to talk to you to look at potentially extending this on-call list to also cover local agencies to help you out with your procurement needs and help you get through local assistance a little easier on your federal projects and make it easier to get consultant help on board. What we're really looking at is kind of one RFQ for 2 different types of services. One would be project development services or standard feasibility studies and Caltrans, project initiation documents, going through environmental design and then PE for federal projects, and then giving you some grant application support as part of that. And also project program management services, or staff augmentation, if you will. And that is really kind of helping manage your projects and get budget tracking on board and different software tools to be able to do different things that we would need or you need for your projects. And that also includes grant application support. So we're looking at potentially rolling out this RFQ in January and then wrapping up the process in the spring. And we wanted to see, is this something that your agencies would be interested in participating in? And if so, how you'd want to structure that? There's a couple of different ways you could do it. Following closely the Caltrans Local Systems Procedures Manual, we could do master on-call contracts with the top ranked firms and then issue them task orders, or just create an on-call list and then do mini RFPs to that on-call list. But depending on how we structure it and depending on how much, if any, federal funds would be used for this, we may have to structure things differently. And wanted to check in with you on your experience on working on-call lists like this and see how we could structure this to benefit everyone. So I'm happy to answer any questions or discussion that people have. So it looks like
So I just, of course, I always think about cost. So I don't know how we would cover the cost for their services. So that's a question. I think you kind of very quickly kind of thought about using federal money maybe, but I don't know. So that's a question. And then I wonder, you know, Santa Rosa has a master agreement for our consultants that we just generate that's approved by our council, and we just generate project work orders so we don't have to go through, you know, a whole RFP process every time we hire a design consultant or traffic engineering or transportation planning consultant. So we have that already in place for just us. And so, you know, I can see where there's some benefits maybe for the smaller cities, but I got to think about it for us. I know Steve's got his hand up, but you know, I think it's a great idea, but how it would work for us, I need to think about that a little bit more.
Understood. Yeah, and we're really thinking about trying to make this eligible for any kind of funding sources and projects that we could possibly come up with. And really, there's a lot of funding opportunities coming up over the next year, not only with our call for projects, but all the new federal funds that are becoming available, and also next round of SB1 and ATV and HSIP funds. So trying to make this procurement something that could be used for pretty much any project that we or the jurisdictions are wanting to, and any funding source is something we're trying to attempt. But I realize several of you, as you said, Nancy, already have existing on-call lists and procurements that are active. So we definitely recognize that's something that could be tricky for some of the agencies. Steve, I think you have a question.
It's just kind of follow up with Nancy. We already have kind of on-call lists where we use this, and we've set our stuff up so that they are federally approved. So if we do have a federal project, we could still use that list of consultants. So it's a nice little tool to have. My question with the application you're talking about here is that maybe you could give me an example of maybe the ATP program. There's a call for projects, and how would you orient that towards the jurisdictions we have here in Sonoma County? So would you go through a competitive process with each jurisdiction that was interested, and then the consultant would work with that jurisdiction to go through that project and that program? Or I guess maybe that's the part I'm not understanding, how you guys envision that working.
Yeah, so the way I envision it is kind of how I've done it at previous agencies, where we establish the on-call list of, say, the top 5 firms, and then we issue them a RFP to that on-call list for a specific project. And that may be, for example, a project in our county-wide transportation plan, or from the 2021 call for projects, or if we have a list of potential projects out there, we can have that available as well, just to be able to solicit consultant assistance for that ATV project or highway bridge project or any other kind of funding source or project that we need. So I think we're trying to make it as flexible as possible while still meeting the Caltrans guidelines for federal projects.
Yeah, so I guess would that mean then that, say, you know, we're the successful agency on that one, then it seems to me that agency would then pay for that consultant's cost, I guess, versus Is that what the model you had used in the past, or what did the CMA pay for the consultant's cost? And then it was a cost share between the jurisdictions for that.
Yeah, so it would be as part of the project cost through the jurisdictions is what we're thinking at this point. So we're really just talking about setting up the solicitation process for you and then turn it over to you if you want to use the on-call list.
Good, thank you.
Peter?
Yeah. Will it be similar to the process that you used on the local road safety plan program?
Yeah, that's something that we're thinking of as a model where we do the procurement and then the cities and the county enter into separate agreements with the contractors depending on.
So you establish the list, basically go through the RFP, everything, establish the list and you say, okay, here's the top 5, whatever approved. Here's the approved list, work with them. And each local, okay, sounds good. So I think our model does work with your approach.
Anyone else?
So seeing as we're short on time, I'll send up a follow-up email to the group to see who, if anyone, is interested. And then I'll send out a draft of our RFQ so you can look it over and see, does it meet your needs? And is there any tweaks you'd want to do to that or additions that would make it more palatable to you? So in the interest of time, I think we'll wrap up this item.
Yeah, David, I think a follow-up with a little more detail would be good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we want to discuss the board meeting, the upcoming SCTA board meeting?
Drew is prepared to share the screen so that you can at least have eyeballs on it before it goes out to the public. It's here and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about it.
That is not in the packet, but it is online, available online?
Not yet.
Okay.
Next Monday.
But we just like to try to make sure that the TAC gets to see it before it goes to the public so that you are prepared to answer any questions from the public or from your directors, should they come your way.
Drew, if you'd be so kind to send that to me, that would be great. And with that, are there any other items, anybody? Nope. Then we are adjourned at 2:59.
And our next meeting will be at its regularly scheduled time on the 3rd Thursday of the month in January.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Shauna, change your background. Put holiday there. You got autumn leaves.
It is still fall.
Okay.
And I am the most Christmassy person you will ever meet.
Okay. I love it though. I love that background. It's pretty. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. Bye.